So who we got on the phone with us?
Larry McReynolds.
Hey, Larry.
Hey there.
Hey, man.
How are you?
Well, you need to be here so that I can remember everything that I've ever done and how many races we won and who won them and all that kind of stuff. I
wish I could have been there, Richard. Unfortunately, I had the studio show, and we just finished up about 10 minutes ago. But I actually saw a tweet, I think day before yesterday, or may have been yesterday, where we wore them out at Atlanta Motor Speedway 28 years ago with Ernie Irvan in that 28 car again down there in Atlanta. And like I said, he was a wheel man, and I think we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
You're so right. Ernie was not afraid to drive it in the corner, was he?
He drove it down in the corner till something happened, and then we'd have to go to work on it.
Yeah, well, that happens a good many times probably, but he was quite a driver. Ernie was one of the best relief drivers we had after Davey got killed in that helicopter.
Yeah, there's no question. He was exactly what our race team needed, and you know that as well as anybody. He never had the attitude that he was replacing Davey Allison. Nobody could replace Davey Allison, but he was there for us to try to win races for himself, for us, and he did that, and he did it well.
You're so right. Ernie was well, I guess Atlanta, when we were going to hopefully win the championship with Davey in '92, I guess it all happened for a reason, but Ernie happened to be the car that Davey, tangled with, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. So it was perfect. So, looking back at the time, it was like, we won't, I was going to say Swerving Irvin, but I won't say that.
Yeah.
He can strike out.
Yeah.
But he was a perfect fix for our team. You're right.
Well, I think there was a lot of people, and you know this, Richard, that questioned Robert's decision to put Ernie Irvan in that car. But I think it was maybe about race number 3 or 4, maybe 5, when we went to Martinsville, sat on the outside the front row and led over 400 laps. And then about a week or 2 later, went to Charlotte Motor Speedway and led 328 of 334 laps out there.
Larry, don't you remember what NASCAR did? They threw a caution because Ernie was so far ahead. I'll never forget that. Thinking that it was going to bunch them back up, but that didn't hurt Ernie at all. He just went on and blistered the 600 there.
Now, him and Davey Allison had the same attitude. If you want me to go slower, you're going to have to do something to the car to make it go slower. I'm not going slower.
I remember being at the Winston. I guess it was the last one in the daytime before they went to the night race at 91, and it would have been 91. Mm-hmm. And then Davey just blistered the field. I mean, he took off and he was gone, checked out, and we sat there and watched that whole race and him lead pretty much every lap, it seemed. Yeah. Yeah,
that was my first win with the 28 car in Robert Yates Racing, and then we brought that same car back the following week and won the Coca-Cola 600.
We sure did. And then the next year in the clash, in that competition there, we won it, but it was at night in '92. Is that correct?
The very first one hot night, and I tell people all the time, we had an interesting start to 1992. We started off by winning the Daytona 500, but then we kind of got into a pattern or a trend where we were winning one week, wrecking one week, winning one week, wrecking one week. And by gosh, that night we figured out how to do both in one night.
Yes.
Well, we won it, and then we had to take him out of the top of the car. I remember so vividly about that particular thing with Kyle Petty, I guess, coming off of that fourth turn at Charlotte. It was like, oh, we're going to win this thing because I think Earnhardt had a problem in turn 3 and 4, and Davey passed him, and of course Kyle Petty was there, and anyway, we got the checkered flag, but we were upside down getting it.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget going to the winner's circle, I guess you could call it, and they had Davey's car on a wrecker. You remember that?
Oh, and I remember your brother, Robert Yates. I never saw him very mad, but that may be the maddest I ever saw him.
He was. I'll never forget it. I never seen him that mad, and I grew up with him. We tussled a lot, but he was really mad at them bringing that wrecked car in there in winner's circle, and Davey was in infirmary or at the hospital, and it, like you said, it was a tough night, but a good night, and it turned out all right. But Davey came out with a lot of bloodshot eyes and all. But anyway, that was just a good history lesson there.
I remember sitting on the backstretch, and I just remember seeing a hood go flying up in the air. I mean, it was bad, yeah.
Oh,
and the sparks flying, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about that deal, to Richard's point, you know, we had sat on the pole, and we had won, I think, the first segment, and then they inverted, and we came back to finish, I think, maybe top 3 or top 4 in the next segment, but we'd gotten a little bit off. The car had gotten a little bit tight. And I remember when they took the white flag, we were running third to Dale and Kyle, and I was a little disappointed because, you know, it's like I knew had I just done a better job of keeping up with the changes that we could have won back-to-back All-Star races. But at the same time, I said, you know, we're going to finish third. We've learned a lot. We'll put some pages in our notebook. And then when Kyle and Dale drove off into turn 3 and Kyle got Dale loose and spun him, and when they came off turn 4 and I saw Kyle Petty and Davey Allison side by side, I thought to myself, I know who's going to win this drag race, and his name's Robert Yates.
Yeah. You're so right. That was a very exciting race, really. Probably one of the better ones that we ever had in Charlotte. But I'll never forget that night. I think I took the car back to our race shop that night. Got there about 3 o'clock in the morning, and didn't get home probably 5 o'clock in the morning after that race. But it was all, I guess it was all worth it in the end. I just worried about Davey, but we raced the next week.
Yeah, he was a little bit different. If you remember, that's when we used to have to be back out at Charlotte for the 600. It would open like on Tuesday for practice. And Neil Bonnet, who really didn't have a full-time ride at that time, he practiced. It was a brand-new car, brand-new race car. We were going to run that All-Star car, but Neil practiced it for us, and then Davey qualified it on Wednesday. And we didn't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish because that's when they used to play that Winston Million, and you had to win 3 of the 4 Crown Jewel events. We had already won the Daytona 500. We already won Talladega. We just either had to win the Coke 600 or the 700, and we came up a little short. We ended up finishing 5th in the 600.
Yeah, that particular year. Yeah. Didn't we not win Michigan that year, too?
We did, yeah. We won, I think we won 5 races that year. We won Daytona, North Wilkesboro, Talladega, and Michigan. And then, you know, we had that bad crash at Pocono, and we kind of hit a dry spell. But then we went out to Phoenix and won the next race, the next to the last race of the year. That's actually how we took the points lead back, headed to Atlanta.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that was some good racing in that particular year for us, really. You were there, and I tell you what, Larry, you really did a super job with our team. Every week we were a contender to win, and you couldn't always say that prior to that. But you had the car dialed in, and Davey would drive it. He wasn't scared.
Well, Davey had begged me for about a year. He said, I'm telling you, Larry, if you'll just come over here and help me get this Robert Yates horsepower pointed halfway in the right direction, we will wear them out. And he did not mislead me, because the first time I went back in the engine shop after I started there and saw them dynoing an engine, and I looked down at the horsepower numbers, I went, heck, I've been wasting my career trying to chase this thing.
I bet. It was a good time once you came from Kenny Bernstein's team and came over and helped us out, because I believe we had Suitcase Jake there prior to you coming, and he did a good job, great job in fact, but we were still struggling to put it all together. So you really did a great job with our cars.
Well, I tell people all the time, Richard, and I'm very sincere, going to Robert Yates Racing and working for you and Robert, working with Davey and everybody that was there, it was a career-making move for me. And I felt like, I know Robert Yates Racing was good for me because, it helped put me on the NASCAR map because of all the tools and resources, including Davey Allison, that I was given to work with.
Yeah, that's true. You had a lot of skills and you were able to use them. And Robert had, like you said, he was a motor man, and he wouldn't stop working. Sometimes we would be in the morning of the race almost getting it on the hauler to the racetrack. And I know you worked all night a lot.
Well, and Robert, and of course, the same way, and really everybody back there in that engine shop, they were so committed, so dedicated, and you're right. Nobody worked harder on getting ready for Daytona and Speed Week than the engine shop at Robert Yates Racing. But I would have to go back there and say, guys, all I know is the garage area in Daytona is going to open in about 12 hours, and it's going to take our hauler 8 to get there. We've got to move this hauler and get gone.
I remember that. We were up for making the race, wasn't we? But it's all what we did. It's just with a good group of great mechanics and great just spotters, and everybody did their job, and that's what made a successful, very successful team.
Well, we were all racers, and we were only committed to one thing and one thing only, and that was winning races. I mean, it's just like we were talking about that All-Star race in '92 in the Coke 600. We knew we had a shot to win the Coke 600 and to win that $1 million, and we debated about whether to save that car, 007 we called it. Do we save it and run it in the All-Star race? And Robert, Davey, and I looked at each other, and it took us about 15 seconds to make the decision. You know what? The next most important race is that All-Star race, and that's what we're going to take our best effort to. And that's why we ended up running that car and put ourselves in position to win the race.
That's right. We'd never sidelined anything. Well, we always wanted number one car on the racetrack with the best of the best, and I think that's what we had.
No question. That's what everybody was committed to do, including that driver, Davey Allison. Absolutely.
That's so right. Yeah.
Well, Larry Mack, thank you so much for calling in. I wish you well, and hope you come up to Statesville sometime and come on my show, Racing Roots with Hamm.
Well, we'll definitely try to make a point to do that. The one thing I'd like to say with Richard here and listening and saying it to him, I worked for Robert Yates Racing for six plus years, and the whole Yates family, Robert, Carolyn, Richard, Judy, Doug, Amy, I've worked for them, but they were like family, and they treated my wife Linda and I and our kids like family. And even though Robert Yates' name was on that building, Richard Yates was just as big a part of it, and there's no way it would have worked without the things that Richard Gates contributed to that race team.
Well, thank you, but I was sort of in the background, I guess you could say. Most of the time, I'm not one that has to get any recognition, but anyway, I met a lot of great people, and you know, me and you stay in touch quite a bit, and you know, you and your family are you're part of us. So
Well, we always will be, no question, Richard, and always proud to call you one of my friends.
well, you are definitely my one of special friends. I have a lot of friends, but you are my special friend. You and your family.
Well, and it's likewise. And I'm so thrilled that Nick Ramey got in touch with me and told me about this again. If I hadn't had the studio show tonight, I would have been there, but I'm glad we got to do this.
That's okay. I'll see you in the meantime somewhere, I'm sure.
You got it, buddy.
So tell your family and everybody hey, and I'll be in touch.
You as well. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.